Here's Dr. Russ. Welcome to Dr. Russ and our air rifle adventures. And today we're going to find out if you really need one of these. What in the world are these? These are rangefinders. Maybe you need one and maybe you don't. Let's talk about it. I had a friend call me today from Florida and he said, which rangefinder do you recommend? And I said in a text message back, I said, maybe you don't need one. He wanted to know which one I recommend and what the cost. Well, I first of all started with this inexpensive Halo XRT7, which meant it ranges out to about 700 yards, and it was about $100. I think I bought it at Tractor Supply. But my real bargain was this Bushnell. And I found it at a flea market for under $20. And it's if you look real close, it ranges out to 1,500 yards. It's a dandy. This thing's probably $300, and I got it for just a few bucks at the flea market. Do even I need them? Well, I think rangefinders come in handy in two instances. Number one, when you go hunting out west and you're looking at deer and antelope at 200 and 300 yards, and those western mountains really do surprise you on what the range might be. And a powder gun, it has the same type of a drop on that bullet at ranges as air guns do. So I found rangefinders very helpful when I was hunting with powder guns out west. I haven't found them to be very helpful with air guns. Here's why. 80-90% of your shooting might be in your own backyard. Well, doggone it, just take a tape measure or pace it out. Put some markers in your yard and you'll know what's 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. You don't need a rangefinder. You actually measured it out and shoot at the target effectively. The target in your backyard. If you go to a shooting range, a professional shooting range, they're very clear on what the yardage is. They'll have 50 yards, 100 yards, and in some ranges out to 200 yards. And it's clearly marked. Here again, you know the range. With air guns, we rarely hunt beyond 60 to 100 yards, for me anyway. Anything beyond that it would be a rare shot. And by the time you fool around with a rangefinder, you might lose the animal. So what you want to do is start getting it up into your shoulder and getting the crosshairs on it, and with some marks on your stock, you know that at 50 yards what mil dot or hash mark you want to put that at. If the wind's blowing to the left or right, you want to know what mil dot to the left or right. You want to zero in on that animal. That takes some time, and that may be all the time you've got, rather than fooling around with a rangefinder, which you got to turn on and look out. And what mode? Are we going to use the rainy day mode, the snow mode, or the clear sunny day mode? And then get that range. Now, before I go too much further, let me say this. There's a second instance that you might need rangefinders. Bow hunters use it particularly, but you might. And that's when you're shooting downward. Now, that's a little tricky with range. When you're shooting down, you're up in a tree, you're up on top of a hill, you're shooting down. Why is that tricky? Well, the distance down might be, let's just say, 100 yards. But if you stood back a bit and looked at the actual distance left and right, you might find you're only shooting at 50 yards. And why that's important is this. 50 yards is the distance that gravity works on an arrow or on a bullet or a pellet. And that might be important to you. So you don't need the distance of 100. You need just the gravity pull of 50 in that example. So now that we've discussed that, when and where we might need these, you will, in the practice in your backyard with proper marks, pretty well with air guns, get down to being an expert all by yourself. I think that I'm an expert until I get out west again and start shooting at long distances with a powder gun. But here in Michigan, the Midwest, I hope to be on an iguana hunt down here in Florida soon. These distances are, with all the shooting and practicing in my backyard, I've got distance down pretty good. And a rangefinder isn't that important to me. That's $100, $200, $300 that you could spend on a good compressor, scuba tank, or a hunt itself. Now, something else I think I wasted my time on, wasted my money on, wasn't a rangefinder. It was one of these. This was a digital sound level meter. Well, you see these all over the YouTube video net. What are they doing? They're measuring the amount of sound that comes out of a air gun before you put a suppressor on it and after you put a suppressor on it. Sometimes that sounds the same, and or it's quite small, from 100 decibels to 90. Is that important? I don't think so. I was down in the Donnie FL factory not long ago, and I said to him, and it's the best example that I can share with you, because these things are $100, is this. You can have a car go down the street with boom boxes in it going boom, boom, boom. You can feel the vibration through the ground, and nobody gets upset. But you get a bing going through the air, that upsets people. They know that's a bullet, and that can be deadly to them. So what suppressors and moderated barrels need to do is just change the sound. They might make it louder as far as I'm concerned, but change it from that crack, that sharp crack that air guns and powder guns often make, or the zing as it exceeds the speed of sound. But thunk, 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 that doesn't bother anybody. And so suppressors often just change the type of sound, but not the meters. So I wasted my money on that. So here's 3 things. I just don't use them anymore. With that, I hope that you learned something, put it to use in your own. Now, if you go powder hunting, if you hunt in trees with a bow and arrow, maybe you need one. Other than that, give us a thumbs up if you found some value here. It saved you some money. And leave a comment. I answer all of them. Subscribe if you want to get the next one. Be the first on your block to get it. And oh yes, we finally came to a conclusion on our new logo. Something a little different. I'll share that with you in the next video. Have a good day.